Welcome, welcome. It's that time, man. It's Graders Notes time. Thursday night has arrived. The bi-weekly Thursday that you've all been waiting for is here. The Graders Notes Extravaganza Special Edition Stacked and Jacked 5-panel member show. That's right. And let's just get right to it. Let's bring in this roster, man. First in, the man with the green screen. We're talking none other than Genome Presents. What's up, dude?
Hey everyone, Genome here, coming at you with the next episode of Graders Notes. Good to be with all my fellow compatriots tonight, grading a 90s book here for a change, and should be a grand old time.
Hell yeah. And going from the man with the green screen to the man with the mean streak, it's Miracle. What's
Hey, how you guys
Didn't
doing?
really rhyme, but I tried.
No worries, brother.
Good to see you.
Looking forward to this. Interesting pick, I gotta say. We had some interesting weather here in Calgary today. A couple tornadoes touched down, so it's been some thunder and lightning. Now we got sunshine. Who knows? Wild days for Wildcats, I guess. All right, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh shit! Yeah, that Canadian weather, you never know what you're gonna get. Much like a Graders Notes episode, much like you never quite know what the take of our next panel member is going to be, but you know it's going to be thoughtful and on point. We're talking Mr. Betterog here. Good to see you, my friend.
Hey guys, great to be here. Greetings everyone, and welcome Four Color fans to our first 5-way melee. How do you like that, Kenny? You like that?
I love that.
I thought about that all day for you. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to have our special guest and the winner. But I was thinking about this. Really, we had so many winners because every one of them had something special that they brought to the show. I mean, their video. So JHood is just 1A, but it was 1A, B, C, D, E, F, G because we were really blessed to have really great, poignant entries. So I am excited to see what JHood has under the hood today.
That's right. Without further ado, the guest of honor, the honorary Graders Notes alumni, as of tonight, Mr. JHood Creative. What's up, brother, man?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Is this a case of I'm the winner or be careful what you wish for?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
There you go. Thanks for having me on, guys. Thanks for the opportunity to work my way on. I guess I've achieved a level of, something.
Yeah.
of recognition, anyway.
Yeah.
And just thanks for voting me in and taking a chance on this Wildcats book that I've picked for tonight.
Yeah.
Will it stand up to the way I remember it from 25 years ago? More? I'm bad at math.
Those are fun picks. That was like when we did New Warriors 1. It had been since my childhood that I read it, and I knew I loved it. To go back to it fresh eyes, it's a fun thing. So yeah, man. Let's just get into this chat right here, man. We got Big Scott. Scott got a little rebranding there, aka Falcon Hood 4. Nice. Mr. Chaos in Comics, good to see you, man. He's a fan of the Wildcats. Ruben Guzman, good to see you. The 84 channel official hype man and cheerleader, Magic Lasso, great to see you. JHood Consigliere / bodyguard, Coach Vic.
Well said. Well said.
See you. How do you say that word? What Michael Corleone had, what Tommy was.
Consigliere. I don't know. I'm not Italian, but something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Hi, Lucha Libre. Maybe he knows. Good to see you, man. Thanks for checking in. Alex Big Blue. Genome representing the chat. Super Russ 9000. Good point, Magic Lasso. Or should we say Ross McFetus? Dude, that
Oh, that was classic, wasn't it?
Oh man, an Instagram post hasn't made me laugh that hard in a while. You put LOL, like laugh out loud, but I rarely am. I'm usually smiling or something. But Russ, you made me laugh. You made me really laugh out loud, dude. That was awesome.
He's a funny guy. He made me laugh today on my post when I put, hey, what two characters were these haiku referring to? And he put Chevrolet and Human Fly.
That's a mixed bag. Mr. G, Mr. Garrel, good to see you. A rebranded profile pic for Mr. Unruly Simeon. Very appropriate. The peace sign is almost synonymous at this point with our boy Unruly. Graders Notes alumni. No one else but me. Good to see you, man. That's a new name for me.
Yeah. I think he's my buddy. He's a fellow Canuck, Mr. Miracle.
That's right.
Oh.
Some Canadian camaraderie in the house. Let's see, I jumped ahead a little bit. Who am I missing? Delphia, and I'm sure Kachung is not far away. Good to see you guys. Funk Master, Flex in the house. Good to see you. Funkadelic, Better Ray Jim, great to see you. You guys are awesome. Mark Knapp. I just watched a Mark Knapp video before we went on because he had an epic thumbnail. You gotta check him out. Stay Puff, Kachung.
Man.
Great to see you. And last but definitely not least, my man Jackson Roykirk. Really becoming a chat all-star in my eyes. Jackson's a good chat homie for sure. Okay. Those are my duties. JHood, why don't you introduce the book that we're discussing tonight, man?
Okay. How much do you want me to get into, like, walking through the story?
No, I'd leave the story out and more just introduce what the book is and maybe why you picked it.
Okay. So the book for tonight is Wildcats number 21, published in, let me break out the glasses here.
95.
Yep, it was 95. So, I mean, it might seem like an odd pick being kind of the middle of the run. It's issue 21 rather than an issue 1. I guess it would have been, should be considered a key in that it's got 2 first appearances and is the introduction of a new Wildcats team. And it's also the first issue written by Alan Moore. So let me walk you back through growing up as a kid reading Image Comics. So 95, I would have been, I was married in 1995. Let me put it that way. So I was just out of college for a year, had grown up, reading Wildcats from issue 1. Once the Image founders got past their initial launch of their books, they ran into the problem of, hey, I need to keep up with a monthly book and run a studio, find talent, keep all these balls in a row. So Jim Lee might have had, 2 or 3 different titles going at the time, so he became more of an editor than a penciler at that point. So in issue 15, Travis Charest took over the art duties. He had been essentially what I would have considered a high-quality Jim Lee clone artist, better than all the other clones, in my opinion. And he kind of, you could see him grow from issue to issue. He had started out doing Dark Stars for DC. He had done a Flash annual. The kind of the style and the rendering of Jim Lee was there, but his proportions were way off. That was his problem in the early days. And then as he kind of worked his way into Jim Lee's studio, his work became better and better by issue. So he started at issue 15. They were kind of wrapping up a storyline. They had one of their first events for Wildstorm Studios just prior to this. And like I said, this introduced Alan Moore as the writer. So it's kind of a kickoff issue, kind of a reboot issue without having to go all the way back to number 1, which is what they would do these days. So yeah, I guess that's the cleanest summary I can get without actually delving into the book itself.
No, That's great. Because, brother, let me tell you something. Because when I was looking for like the credentials, the team on the book, and I really couldn't find it. I was familiar with Travis Charest, but I had no idea the Moore referred to Alan Moore.
Yeah. So
all the way in the back.
The credits are on the last page. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was looking for it too earlier.
Oh, there. Wow. Well, let's just say I wouldn't have guessed that. Cool. What's up, Daymares, Gore Vidal, and House Till the End? Thanks for joining us. Well, shoot, man. This is Grader's Notes. If you're new to the premise of the show, we get a book. We put it on the chopping block. And we're going to dissect it, review it, chop it up in a category of 5 different criteria: the cover, the story, the art inside, the concept, and then we'll give it an overall grade. Grades are 1 through 5. We'll each go give our grades, and then the 6th grader is you in the chat. After we do a round of voting on those categories, you put your vote in there. We'll get out the abacus, tally it up, and get the all-important chat vote. And that's what you're in for, man. And we got a fun little halftime show that you're going to get. So just an action-packed episode. And usually we start where the book starts, right? The cover. Oh. and by halftime show, Mr. JHood's going to pick his prize from one of us here on the panel. So we're almost like a bunch of like Bachelor. What is it? The Bachelor show?
Yeah.
We usually start with the cover. And, I would love it if my friend Gino, since you have that great Wildcats background, would start the party for us.
Oh, wow. He's leading off. Oh, I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank all my fans. Give me 1 second while I yank this out, or Mel Brooks, as I whip this out. So, all right, here we go. Let me actually get my timer started. I'm going to be a little more brief this evening because we got 5 people. And off we go. So, first thing you think of when you see this is 90s. This is a 90s book. This book is after my time. Image is after my time in comics. I had already left, the genre at that point. So this is all new property to me, and I thought this was kind of Jim Lee right when I looked at it. I don't know if he just did the finishes or if he did the layouts. I'm not sure, but it definitely reeks of him because there's Jubilee. She's already there. There's a couple other guys here. This guy reminded me of Cyber. That's kind of a lesser-known character. Yeah, it's okay. It's a standard kind of, hey, everyone strike a pose kind of thing, and I'm not usually a big fan of that. And that's kind of what comics have devolved into from what I've seen. So on covers, it's well done, even though some of the faces are weird. I don't know. I like the characters in the back better than I do the 4 characters, but I don't know. I don't know the team, so I can't say whether they look really good or not. So I'll keep it real brief. It looks good. There's a lot of good points to it. Like I like how her arm is actually thin and normal looking, anatomically instead of huge and muscle bound, bulbous. There's some pretty cool anatomy here where the pec is going into the delt up here. So that's pretty nice work, indicative of a very tried and true student of art. I don't know what's going on with this guy. He's got like the saber-toothed Logan face kind of wide, and I don't know. He's got the Brendan Fraser who looks angry, not sad kind of thing going on. And she's got the danger hair a little bit, 15 years too early. But yeah, it's just okay. It's just well drawn, but I don't know what's going on in the background. Is that a glacier or is that this guy's cape, cloak, whatever it is? It's okay. I give it a 2.5. I kind of like the way this is. The trade just kind of floating. I kind of dig that. It's a good clean look, I think. And not much else I can say about it. I mean, it just looks sort of cool, but I don't know what's going on inside other than, they went down to get a glamour shot done. So I'm going to give that a 2.5. Serviceable, but nothing too spectacular for me.
Okay. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The very first serviceable of the evening, right up top, man.
Awesome.
Very nice. Got it right out the way. Great stuff, man. Miracle, I'd love to hear your take on the cover, brother.
Well, yeah, I think Gino hit a lot of the right points, man. I mean, the cover is done by Jim Lee. He didn't do the interior, but he did do the cover, right? Trying to pass the torch here, I guess, from interior arts, but this really phones it in for Jim Lee. I've seen Jim Lee do a lot better than this. Like, it's very, we're back to it, first issue itis, right? I know it's not issue number 1, but it's the introduction of a new team, so it's the splash page cover with all the team members striking a pose. And yes, they put that on there for a standard because it works, right? It gives you an idea of what the characters look like, that you're going to see new characters, gives you a little taste like, ooh, who are these guys, right? But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of these characters just don't look different enough from one another to like just have that strike a pose kind of character cover, right? Without it just looking like, okay, that's a Jim Lee drawing. But like the proportions and everything, it's Jim Lee. I mean, Jim Lee is always on point with his artwork. It's very Jim Lee style. I do like the coloring on it. I mean, they were starting to get into all the wild computer coloring and whatnot with these issues. It does the job. It introduces the new team, kind of sets things up a little bit. We've seen it before again and again in all the first issue items. So I think Jim Lee phoned it in a little bit, but it is Jim Lee, and it is done very well. So I gave it a 3. A little above the serviceable, right?
Okay.
But it does its job, but it's Jim Lee, so I had to give it like a bump because it's him. So 3.5 my score for that one.
I follow your logic there. I can dig it.
3 was my score. Sorry, not 3.5.
You got a 3. And
3.
Why don't we get our boy JHood right in the mix, right in the middle of the pack here. Let you get the thoughts off before everyone gets takes all the meat off the bone for you. What do you think, man?
I like it. I mean, I agree. It's Jim Lee, and there are some flaws with it. I agree with Genome. The rendering on this guy over here is an awesome example of well-drawn anatomy. I think the chick down here in front is drawn with the equal amount of care and professionalism. This guy over here, Tao, that's where Jim Lee starts mailing it in. And let's not talk about Rob Liefeld's feet. Here are some. Jim Lee can take shortcuts on feet too. Look at those little flapper fins down there. And the two characters in the background, they're serviceable Jim Lee. There's another serviceable for you. Serviceable Jim Lee renditions. The thing that I think really appeals to me about this cover, though, is there you go. It is the coloring, and the color. I don't know if the interior color was by Joe Chiodo, and I'm not sure if he did this as well. Interesting JHood side note is that I could have been in Wildstorm Studios doing coloring at this point in time if I had chosen to move to California and work for minimum wage. But I passed on that. But I could have been the guy coloring this, and I doubt if I would have done as good a job as this person did. I think that it is a little bit fresher look for Jim Lee, because at this point he had kind of, I don't want to say fallen into a rut, but he had all of his kind of stylistic shortcuts down by this point. And this wasn't inked by Scott Williams, who is his normal inker on Wildcats. This was inked by Troy Hubbs, who also inked the interior. And I think it just gives it just a little bit of freshness. And that's another reason why I think I like it a little bit more than I should. I gave it a 3.5 overall.
3.5 from JHood. Well said, well broken down. Mr. Metarog, what do you think, man? Wait, that's not Metarog.
I think JHood is a handsome man.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, my copy of Wildcats 21 is still stuck in Jackson, Mississippi, and has for about a week.
Oh.
So I went digital. So Kenny, if you maybe somebody would show their cover, and I'll talk a little bit about it, although it's been kind of already talked about my points.
Yeah. I'm just going to do.
Or Kenny's probably easier for Kenny, or well, I guess it doesn't matter.
I'm going to work on it.
Okay. Well, the first of all, let me just say that, just as as an aside, I am not an Image fan. Okay, so, but I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible here. Okay, and I'm not going to get into the reasons why I'm not an Image fan, but I think a lot of people hit a lot of the good points. I think this color scheme is well done. I like that. I think it's like a light purple on the trade dress. I like how they're sort of on the foreground of that trade dress of the Wildcats. I think that's a good idea. This pose here, though, is kind of like the classic first issue Image pose. If you look at Youngblood number 1, Cyberforce number 1, they all have kind of like this congregational picture, like saying, like you would have if a group of friends were getting together at a reunion kind of thing, So this is a very unoriginal kind of pose because, again, Image used this over and over and over again, right? I think you have to be careful with Tao's hand, the way his left hand is placed there. It's kind of in an odd situation with the condition red right behind him. I think that might be rethought. Okay, it was distracting to me. I do like Ladytron, I think is her name. The striations and the cybernetic, the way that it sheens and shines, the luster, and her jaw has been replaced, and the kind of punkish hairdo. I think another thing that Jim Lee does is that it looks like they're all using the same hair gel. They all the strands go kind of in the same way. It's like almost like there's some kind of will-o'-the-wisp wind or something going on here with the cape overflowing. It's super dynamic. It's super in your face kind of, I agree. Tao's structure looks odd. It looks his forehead and his jawline just don't seem to really jibe there. But it has good points. I like the details. Jim Lee, good detail there, good anatomy. The posing, except for like JHood was saying about the feet being very odd there, kind of like it's almost like they're disappearing. But I give a little bit of artistic license on covers. But I like some things, I didn't like others. When you wash it all together, average cover 2.5.
2.5. Average grade. Man, I'm trying to find this sucker on my online thing. I can't find it. But it's all right. We're going to make it work.
You need to do the cover again for you? Oh, no, you got a copy of it there, don't you? Okay.
Yeah, I do. Mine came fast.
Yeah, mine did too.
Bringing up the rear. Bat and cleanup. Is myself.
All right, Jay Buhner, go.
I will agree that this guy, Grifter Jr. Is that Crimson Red, this guy? Or Red?
Edition Red, I think.
Edition Red. Fantastic drawing. He killed it. I love the pose. I love the anatomy. He's the highlight of the cover for sure. Like JHood said, she's second, but the position of her arm kind of irks me a little bit. Like this little uptick that her wrist does, it just seems very, like unnatural. I don't know, a little weird, but I can get over it. This guy with the worst superhero costume of all time, a purple T-shirt, is not as impressive. I mean, it's got the '90s checklist. We got tech, biotech looking costumes, check. Pouches and gadgetry, check. Total shunning of the conventional comic book superhero costume. I mean, I guess this guy's supposed to be like a little throwback to that, but in general, it's 90s and especially Image when everyone was militaristic and cybernetic, one way or another. So it's cool. It harkens back to the time, but these top two, like the gal here, I thought it was funny that, like, when reading the book, I didn't remember this guy having like a metal falcon wing under his arm, and it just seems like there's a random piece of metal coming off to block her body. I'm like, what a shortcut by Jim Lee. That's amazing. I did not see a metal wing inside the book, so that's crazy. This guy did not have a big Spawn-like cape in the book either, and he just went to town with that. So laughable shortcuts on a couple of those and the feet, like you said. So, I like the coloring on it. I think the coloring's cool. I like how it has an overall pink, like purplish pink palette. That's pretty cool. But, it is a very strike a pose type cover. But, a couple of the characters really nail it and make it look good. So, and I'm a fan of the trade dress. Trade dress is pretty cool. I dig it. So, yeah, it's not like a super home run. It's, not a slouch cover by any means. I mean, there's some great work going on here. It is Jim Lee after all. So I went with middle of the road for this. I went 2.5 on the cover.
Good score. Good score.
Yeah.
Looks like there was some
like fall in there that
we were all, in the same ballpark, I think, pretty much.
Yeah.
Jim Lee should have done a cover swipe on that one of X-Men 1 or something. Cool.
Yeah. Chat, it's your opportunity to weigh in. Weigh in on what you think of this cover on a scale of 1 through 5. We'd love to hear it.
So you nailed it when you said this was like super 90s, man.
Oh, yeah.
This is like epitome 90s.
Oh, yeah.
So here's JHood's imagined backstory on this cover. Jim Lee had time to do the 2 good figures.
Yeah.
And he like really pimped them out, and he's like going to town on it. And then they're like, okay, we got to have that cover done tomorrow. He's like, oh crap, let me knock the rest of these figures out. I mean, the fact that Tao was kind of even standing on his tippy toes, which was not unusual in an Image book, but it's kind of inexplicable.
Yeah, he's just floating there.
I swear that is Jubilee back there. And I think this is Psylocke, to be honest with you. She has a real Psylocke look. Also, she's highly indicative of anyone who's played Metal Gear Solid 4. She looks like the Raiden cybernetic mix right there, even with the jaw.
Sorry, I haven't played it.
Yeah, the original Wildcats, a lot of people used to say back then that Jim Lee took the X-Men and created versions of them.
I mean, that's essentially what all the Image creators did with their launch books.
Yeah.
But that's like, you can say that about every comic book hero, right? Is how a version of someone else.
Correct. Yeah. There's very little originality. There's only, kind of, how can you structure it so it doesn't seem obvious,
Right. And then, the originality has to come in kind of their backstory and their personality and stuff, right?
Right.
Man, the chat.
Plus, they probably wanted to stick at Marvel anyway, so they're probably being ostentatious about it too. So
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
The chat's on strike, guys. They don't want to push
That's straight.
Oh man, we got some great.
Really? My screen?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we got quite a few grades, Kenny. No worries, man. No worries.
Oh, let me pull it on my phone. My chat's acting up there.
All right, no worries, buddy. Now, you guys, you got to remember, Kenny. He's a sensitive soul. Okay, so you hurt his feelings if you don't put your vote in there. Okay. So do it for Kenny, if nothing else.
That's weird. I still don't see it. Let me get my phone.
I just noticed her dual banana clip there too. That's pretty combat efficient.
The fact that runs off the page. I saw that and I was like, okay, is that on condition red or is that part of her gun? And yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And what about that little like wedge or kind of thing coming out of the knee of Tao on the left there? What is that little like pointy thing coming out?
That's her vest. She's got a vest on, and that's the bottom edge of her vest.
Oh, okay. All right. I wasn't too sure about that. I was going to mention it, but I was like, it wasn't like that distracting. But.
You know what? I never noticed that she's pointing the second gun in this. I never noticed
that. Looking at it.
Yeah, right there. Yep.
See if my camera actually focused. That's pretty cool. I like that little.
Yeah. I thought that was good too. Yeah.
It's like a sneaky shot there.
Yeah, it's got a good posing. If you like posing covers, it's not bad. I don't.
Grades in yet?
All right, you ready, Gino? No, Kenny's the abacus guy.
Yeah, I could do it.
Yeah. Let's not break tradition here because JHood's here. All right. The first vote that I see is House to the End, Technotronics 3.0. Alex 3, our buddy Simeon 3, Biggie goes 2, Scott goes 4, Garrow goes, I guess, 3, Bill goes 2, Vic goes 3, Daymares goes 3, Kachoon goes 3, Russ 4, Mark 2.5. And Steve Whiting, hey buddy, 1.5. Ooh, Steve harsh on this one.
All right.
4, Russ, really? You'll never be on this panel.
He's an image guy, I guess. He's a Disney guy, an image guy, maybe.
All right, that's going to bring it to a 3, a solid 3 from the chat.
Yeah.
Right on.
Oh boy, was that Miracle's grade?
That's my grade.
Yeah, the only 3.
Wow.
Oh, man. Wow, my chat is so behind. The Biggie's vote just came in on my chat now.
Well, we got you, Kenny. We got you.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
someone say
Phone better?
Biggie? Oh, yes.
That's okay. I got it. Yeah. So, represent. Fantastic. And
One down.
I'm gonna give the guest of honor a little clout here tonight. For the second category, sometimes we switch up between going from cover art to interior art, or sometimes we take a break from art and go into the writing and the story. What do you think we should sink our teeth into for category 2, Mr. Hood?
I would say, since we've talked about art, let's change it up and go with the story next.
Okay, fantastic. So,
The dog agrees.
yeah, and
I agree.
even though I mixed you guys up, I think I remember the order of operations. So Gino went first last time. Mr. Miracle, he's a tough critic, man, when it comes to writing. So let's see if he's gonna get the Venom, if this guy's gonna get the Venom or the Valor, Alan Moore. Floor is yours.
You got the gold mine, I got the shaft. Yep.
Yeah, well, let's see what we got here. Story. Mr. Moore. There's some good writing in here. There's some very typical writing for Alan Moore as well. He just had to put them into a period area so that he could have his guys dressing up like, 17th century people or whatever. Right? He does this so much. Everybody has to be from back in time with Alan Moore all the time. Appreciate you, Alan Moore, but move along. Enough with the fucking period pieces. This is not Downton Abbey. This is 1995, so Alan Moore has amassed quite a list of comic book writing by this time. I mean, he was hailed as a god after Watchmen. And so getting him to work on Wildcats, that must have been quite a coup for Mr. Jim Lee to get him done. Some of the good stuff that I really like about this story, it's a heist story. I really like that it's a heist story, but they're not heisting the drugs, they're heisting the girl, right? So that was kind of a cool thing, right? Like the guys doing the big drug deal are just like the worm on the hook, right? They're just their real prey is trying to get this girl captured to become a team member. And sorry, I keep calling the girl. What was her name again? Cybora or
Ladytron.
Ladytron. I like that name though. It's a little typical, but that's okay. So they're trying to capture her, right? So it's a heist story, and that's cool. It's not just typical, hey, do you want to be on the team? Sure. Okay, now let's go find the next guy. Do you want to be on the team? No, you have to convince me, right? No, so that was cool that they're gonna go out, kidnap members. Okay, I'll finish up. A couple of things that did bother me was he just kept punching you in the face with it though. We're gonna have a different team, and the characters would literally say that we're gonna have a different kind of team than he just stopped short of saying comic book readers ever read before. So that was a little bit in your face and obvious in some of his story writing. Overall, I enjoyed the story. Like I said, it was a heist story, so it kind of drew me in, and I wanted to see, how things were going to go and whatnot. But so for the story, I thought, good, but could have been better. Did a little bit too much typical Alan Moore stuff for me. I wanted to see a little, expand into this whole, cyber heroes universe thing. So I gave the story a 3.
3 from Mr. Miracle. Very nice. Socked it to him.
Nice.
I think that brings it to Mr. Hood. What'd you make of that interior story, sir?
Yeah, so I'll totally agree. Having the gimmick of the period dressed characters was kind of I don't know. It just seemed odd to me. But the idea is that it's a theme restaurant. The waiters and waitress, the staff at this theme restaurant are dressed like presidents, or the wives of presidents. That was a bit odd. But I think the thing that I liked, the reason this story really clicked with me the most is because this is the issue where they're building a team, like Mr. Miracle said, but it's done in such a way that it's kind of fresh and different as far as in comics goes. Refresh your memory. This is 95. In 94, we had this movie over here called Pulp Fiction. I'm sure Alan Moore saw Pulp Fiction before he wrote this, because he uses the plot device of jumping back and forth in time. He always makes sure we know what the date is.
Yeah.
And he even uses the gimmick of titles for the chapters, though he does it in such a way that it's kind of buried and somewhat confusing, because he'll wrap up a scene and have the chapter title for the next scene at the end of that scene. So it took me a while to figure out what he was doing with this, but that's exactly what it was. The pages that would follow up on this little dialogue box that you would put at the end of certain pages. I like the fact that even though all these characters were essentially new, this dude in the background is Mr. Majestic. He was, I think, the only character with any serious history in Wildstorm at that point. I think he either had his own series or had been a team member in another book or something like that. But he was the only established quantity, and he was the Superman type character. So I like the fact that Savant was she's willing to settle for the kind of the low hanging fruit as far as the potential team members would go. I think the group that they establish is fun and unique. I think the one thing I didn't like in the end was that, unlike Mr. Miracle, that kind of liked the fact that the twist was they're just, the idea is that the MacGuffin is to get to Ladytron to join the team. I look at it and I'm like, why? What value is this Ladytron character gonna bring to the team that you want her so bad that you set up this entire comic to kind of pick her up? So, to be honest, what happens after this, a lot of it is vapor. I don't remember a lot. I know what happens at the very end, like what the twist is at the end of Alan Moore's run. But Travis Charest didn't stick around he wasn't consistent. He was there kind of part-time. And the other art didn't intrigue me as much, and it kind of lost me. So I breezed through issues, and they didn't stick with me like this one particular book did. But I brought it to the table because it does kind of stand alone, even though it introduces a bunch of new characters. And I think that my first, when I reread this after I learned I was going to be on the show, the one thing that I kind of regretted was I didn't realize how reverential it was to Wildstorm and what was happening in that universe, and that some of the name mentions and kind of cameo appearances of certain characters that can or can't be seen on that page are all Image and or Wildstorm / Homage. I guess that's what the studio was, Homage at the time. Characters. So from that standpoint, I can see if I handed this to a new reader, it's going to be a little bit confusing. There's going to be some barrier entry to get over, but overall, the story after all these years has stuck with me. I liked it, so I want to give it better than average, so I gave it another 3.5.
Nice.
3.5 from Hood. Well put, sir. Well put. Mr. Metarog, I'd love to know your thoughts on the writing and the story of this book.
Right. Well, Alan Moore, I felt like a real love-hate relationship with Alan Moore. I think he is a brilliant writer, but I think his political views and sometimes almost like a nihilist kind of point of view can be distracting. And, like he makes it seems to me like that theme restaurant, he's trying to make fun of the presidents and the governmental structure in his own little whimsical way there, and has Jacqueline Kennedy and George Washington, and he has a little part there where he's talking about a cherry tree and how that is perhaps not, the story wasn't correct, So with Alan Moore, you have to kind of take things at a certain face value, because if you go too deep, you can really get caught up in what he's trying to mess with your mind, right? But he has a master plan here for sure, and this is just the beginnings of it. This is the seed of it. I'm not a big Wildcats fan. I did read a few of the earlier issues, and I found that the team was totally different, except for Mr. Majestic. I think he was on some of them. And again, I think the story, like Miracle was saying, was actually pretty good. The plot, shall we say, that they set up this heist, and they are a covert action team, so they were undercover in a sense. So I thought there was good synergy as far as that goes, and where he's trying to lead us. I think, I'm putting on my thinking cap, and I see similarities to Watchmen here when you're talking about the morally ambiguous characters and how they have to blackmail some to get on the team, and how they have to actually trap another. It seems like there's a master plot here that he's writing, and this is just like the seeds of it, the very beginnings of it. And the Tao character, to me, is very intriguing, and I got a feeling that he has hidden agendas galore. Just because of how the story is written. I do like those, like JHood was saying, those transitions they had from the flash forwards to the flashbacks. The first time I read it, it was a little confusing, but the next time I really thought that it was clever, the way that he did that. Better than average story. I think Alan Moore has done much better work, but again, I think he's setting up here. This is a table setting kind of story, so I can't be too harsh on him. I think that it is much better than average, but it still had some inconsistencies. There's a fight there between Mr. Majestic and one of those Zombots that kind of came out of the blue, which I'm confused about. Maybe you guys can talk about that later. A little things that were kind of forced, right? But overall, I think the plot was good. The direction I think is heading is interesting. I give it a 3.
3 from Roger. Okay.
Hey, Kenny, if I could, I just want to shout out, we've got someone in the chat I want to mention. Richard Friend worked in Wildstorm Studios, and he's in the chat with us tonight.
Wow. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, Richard Friend? Thanks, man.
I believe, he can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he was an inker. I'm not sure if he's done penciling work or not, but I remember the name, and I think I remember the quality of work he did. He's pretty good guy, so look him up.
That's pretty cool. Good to see you, Richard. And
make sure to sub all of our channels, Richard. Very important.
Yeah, and another good joined of some substantial stature in the comic book world, D-Runk Comics. Good for seeing you, sir.
George.
Did you just call him overweight? What? Oh.
CEO of DGC. Good to see you. And Dave Enrique, great member of the chat.
I'm putting in JHood's channel, guys. So everybody in the chat, please give him a sub because he really does have some really good content.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, ever since I first saw him, I was like, man, this guy knows his stuff. And then as I found out he was an artist, I was like, oh, no wonder, you know?
Yeah. Really.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so Richard said that he inked Travis. So here's.
I love that cover.
Oh, that's nice.
So there we are. There's that friend is Richard Friend.
Oh, very nice.
Oh man, what a beauty that cover is.
Yeah, I would have liked that cover a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Travis got better, and Richard's inking definitely embellished him extremely well.
Agreed.
You guys want me to call John Beatty up and see if he wants to pop on, or he was streaming earlier, so
Yeah, he streamed a couple times today.
mm-hmm.
This show will go on until tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was getting a pop in the chat. So
We're gonna keep this train moving. I gotta tell you, man, it still kind of surprises me that the Moore that I saw on this cover was Alan Moore. It would have never occurred to me. It just feels, it does not feel like an Alan Moore story. This thing is super trope heavy. Even though it's a 90s book, it reminds me of so many like early to mid 2000s like edgy heist movies. Like this movie Smoking Aces comes to mind. You know, almost like a little Fast and Furious-ish. It's definitely a heist situation, right, with the costume gimmicks, you know, the dressed up as presidents type thing. It is, really formulaic. Like, we're gonna put a team together. Like she's being very straightforward about it. Like, yeah, we need to put a team together. You know, maybe it's like a little wink to comics, which is like, you know, 3 loners that usually aren't on a team get together. We need a big guy and 2 girls, something like that. Like she even says the formula in the book. So maybe he was like aware because there's a lot of like cheesy jokes. Interesting that Moore wrote it. So it was like a fun ride. Like I said, it was really trope heavy throughout. I also didn't really get why this girl, Lady Tron, is the big missing piece. He even says here, when he finally gets her, says, "Let him go. We got what we came for. This is the nucleus around which we can build our new Wildcats." And that, I don't know, that's interesting. You would think the Majestic guy would be the nucleus. She just seems like a cyberpunk, kind of unhinged anarchist. So maybe there's a secret. Maybe she has like
Alan Moore.
Yeah, that's Alan Moore for you. Maybe she has like the Holy Grail embedded in her memory chip or some weird thing like that. Because it doesn't really make sense at first. So yeah, just like interesting. Just seems like you said, like a heist movie, stylish. I didn't see a lot of like writing or theme meat on the bone that I tend to see from Alan Moore stuff. Just like a straight poppy action heist flick that played around with time. Like you said, this is 95, so right around that Tarantino era. I think he was influenced by that. So, you know, interesting. So, with all that being said, though, I don't want to be too negative because it was a fun read. So, fun read, didn't drag. I dug it. I just didn't take away anything too substantial from it. I went right down the middle with a 2.5.
Oh, Serviceable once again rears his ugly head.
Yeah.
Or his blasé head, excuse me.
Mr. Gino, Sir Serviceable himself.
Sir Serviceable. Well, something that none of you guys mentioned, which I thought was kind of surprising, was if there's one thing I liked in this book, it was just the dialogue. I liked the characters talking to each other. If there's one thing Moore does well, other than being a grumpy old bastard, is he does write good, natural sounding dialogue. It's like, compare this to like, so let's say some other X-Men writers or something from the late 80s and early 90s, and you probably know who I'm talking about, but it just seems so natural. Like, I love that very first couple pages when they're talking like back and forth, have this banter going back and forth, and they're like adversarial with each other, and you see these blood trails. Now, a lot of that story is told through the art there, but I think it's just kind of cool how they're just going back and forth and kind of low key threatening each other. But it all comes off. It doesn't sound like it's a comic book. It sounds like more like something you would see in the movies, right? So, yeah, I can dig that. I did like the dialogue in this book quite a bit. Not much else though, to be honest with you. You know what this reminded me of is freaking New Warriors #1. It's a fetch quest to grab some of the guys, because as goofy as New Warriors was, the very first page of that book was Night Thrasher basically giving Nova either the do or die freaking scenario, basically drops him off a building to see if his powers come back. So yeah, he had kind of a bloodthirsty approach to it too. I mean, the rest of it, I think he went to go blackmail Firestar too, kind of, because she was trying to hide her identity. So this reminded me a lot of that. So yeah, who would have thought a New Warriors tie-in might be there? But that's just, fetch quest kind of dynamic. So yeah, I don't know. It was just, it tried to be kind of like a gritty noir when they're trying to get Cyberpunk Girl or whatever, but I just wasn't feeling it. The whole restaurant theme, and that has something to do with the art. I'm sure he gave specific instructions on how to draw them and all that. It was kind of just goofy, and it drug on, and I don't care to hear about their salad orders and that sort of thing. So just get to it. So it was just all right. I liked the dialogue, but I wasn't really crazy about the story. But once again, I don't know these characters because I didn't read, these comics at that time. So I gave it 2.5. It was entertaining and a little more like adult oriented than most comic books were. So I give it props for that. But I guess this does feel like a #1 issue to me, very much like a #1 issue. So it's surprising to see that so late in a run. So I give it 2.5, serviceable. I mean, didn't blow my skirt up too much, but it wasn't horrible either. I like the dialogue.
Mm.
Yeah,
Gino,
I can see that. Yeah.
Gino's skirt stayed firmly down, held down by gravity the whole time. No skirt raising. I'm curious to see what the chat thinks about the story that we've described to you. It looks like a few people in the chat have read it. So yeah, go ahead and drop your boy your grades so we can get a chat grade. And yeah, that's a fun fact you dropped in the beginning. I knew that Moore did Supreme on Image, right? Did he do any other Image titles? I know Supreme, so now I know Wildcats. Any others?
So I watched the cartoonist kayfabe interview with Rob Liefeld, and in that he said that the way this all worked out was that essentially he got to the point where he had Alan Moore writing Supreme. For whatever reason, he couldn't afford him anymore, and so Alan Moore jumped over to Wildstorm. That's kind of how it went. So, I mean, but that's told through the lens of Rob Liefeld, so yeah, who knows exactly what the story is. I wanted to touch on one thing that Roger mentioned, the character of Tau. One of the things that I took away from this was that, in my mind, it's difficult for a writer to write a character that is more intelligent than than the author is. And I think that's what Tau is meant to be. You're right. He's a major player as the storyline goes on. That's one of the few things I remember from the issues that follow this. But yeah, that was, to me, of all the characters he created for this, Tau was the most interesting because he was kind of that super smart mind that can be pretty difficult to write.
Right. Yeah, that to me, right. That's where I sort of got a Watchmen vibe, like Ozymandias. He had a lot of misdirection. He came out like he was being altruistic, but really he had a lot of hidden agendas behind the scene, and that's the vibe I get from Tau. Mm-hmm. That he's setting things up for himself or some agenda, as far as I'm concerned. That's what it seems like to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but
it's very astute of you to pick up on that, just what you see in this issue.
Well, because remember when he gave that piece of paper to the scientist, right? And he had 4 numbers on there. So he knew the buttons to press to get him to release him, mm-hmm. And not have any repercussions for himself. So it seems to me like he's one of those guys that he almost can foretell the future because he can see patterns and he can read people. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the most dangerous power, because if you know how people are going to act, just like Ozymandias, right? you can manipulate things to your way of getting a conclusion. So that's what Tao sort of vibes to me.
What I found amazing was this doctor had 4 girlfriends and a wife. He's doing pretty good. He must be rich.
Yeah.
Hey, there are people like I just saw a documentary on this guy who has 12 wives up in Utah, and let me tell you, he's no prize.
Yeah, I felt like his powers were kind of. I mean, I think that's his first appearance, right? This guy Tao.
Yeah.
His powers were definitely left vague. It just said like he has powers of the mind. So yeah, it makes me wonder what he's capable of.
In my fuzzy memory, this was the first appearance for all these characters except for Mr. Majestic. But as I was kind of flipping through some of the previous issues that came out before this, they had dropped like 1-page little stingers here and there about I think they showed Condition Red once, and they showed Savant, and Majestic was part of a crossover, so he was kind of in the picture already. But yeah,
Majestic is like the Image Superman, if I recall correctly. He's got all the invulnerable, super strength, can fly, heat vision, the whole bit.
Yep.
Right.
Well, we didn't see it in this one. I also find it kind of funny that the cybernetic girl was knocked out instantly by the heroin that she's already addicted to, and you figure her parts would give her a little more resistance to the cloud of hate.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I was going to mention that in the art piece because there's a little bit of a flaw there. But yeah, you're right. I was thinking the same thing, Dean.
Plot device has to go down.
Yeah. Well, some are forced, All right, Ken, you ready?
The girl co-leader was cool. I thought she was a fun.
Yeah.
Max, is it? Max,
I liked her.
Yeah, me too. All right, Raj, Abacus is out.
All right, let's go. Our pal Biggie goes with a 2.5. Scott goes with a 3. 2 from Steve. 2.5 from Mark. 3 from House. 2 from Bill. 3 from Coach Vic. Richard Friend. I think that is it. I guess not a lot of people have read it.
So, all right, that lands it at a 2.5, 2.5. 2.5 from the chat. Now, on to what I'm interested to hear everyone kind of talk about and talk about myself, that interior art. And appropriately, we land on the most baddest, meanest, talented, hands of fire artist, not only on this panel, in the whole community.
If I may interject, are we doing intermission now or after the next category?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh, I just built this up for okay. Hold on. Yeah, why don't we do that? That's a good idea. Roger, would you like to explain what we're about to do?
Right. Well, we each put together a prize package for the select winner of the Graders Notes contest. Right. So what we're trying to wine and dine you, because it is an honor for you to choose whoever it is you choose to get our comics or our stuff. So I guess, Kenny, we can go around and sort of show our wares and try the old snake oil salesman routine to try to coerce JHood to get our stuff.
Sounds good. I'll start. Behind door number 1 is, and these are all, and we're all on the same page that these are all Graders Notes books that we on the show.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Stuff we've used.
So the assembly that I have of Graders Notes swag is your very own. Speak of the devil, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I think that book originally came out around this same time or shortly after, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was a few years after. Yeah.
So you have the trade of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Then you got a couple of facsimiles of some classic titles that we've done in the past. Speedy is a Junkie facsimiles, Hulk 181, and Batman 251. Nowhere else will you get these books in 9.8 8 condition, you know. So facsimiles there. And then we also have Judge Dredd #1, recently reviewed. Brian Boland at his best. Even though my compatriots harshly graded this cover, in my opinion, for the letters. I think the letters are fantastic. And last but not least, a little black and white Buscema, baby. Savage Sword of Conan, number 101. So look at that magical package of books that could be yours. Door number 2.
Gino.
So door number 2 takes it back a little further, and I decided to throw a bonus in there too. So if this was any guy's piles, let me know, and I'll not steal your thunder. But for number 1, I'm going to throw you with some Jack Kirby. So we're going to throw Machine Man #1 at you.
Ooh.
Right there. Yes. Speaking of number 1, let's keep that train rolling. We're going to do Firestorm #1 as well. So
Ooh, that was a Gray Man pick.
was that Gray?
Was that Gray Man?
Yeah.
Taking it way back there.
Yeah.
I do have a facsimile as well throw in there. Actually, 2 of them back to back. Wolverine #1. That wasn't too long ago. And Conan the Barbarian #1. Fun book. Also going to go give you some Jem Walters actions and give you the She-Hulk #1. Sorry about the green screen. It does not like her too much. And as a bonus, I'm going to go ahead and throw this gigantic freaking trade of Suicide Squad in there that we did. So big. I think it's got the first 10 issues in there, something like that.
Yeah, and the Secret Origins issue too.
So there's the price pack right there to the lucky contestant who's already here.
Very nice. Behind door number 2. Now, what lurks behind door number 3?
The Shadow Knows.
All right. Well, JHood, if you pick door number 3, these are the treasures that are coming your way. First, the rare variant, first 2 issues of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Not really rare, but I'm hyping it up. And then, of course, we talked about Jim Lee today. Well, everybody probably has about 20 of these, but you get this issue of X-Men #1. There were only 3 million or so sold, so less than 1% of the population has this.
While supplies last.
And going back to a pick from Genome from a while back, you get the whole 4-issue series of Aliens versus Predator. Wow. I know Genome would never let go of these treasures, but sir, for you, nothing but the best. You get all 4 issues. Pretty good condition. Dave Dorman cover here, I believe.
You just angered Dave, too.
Yeah. And of course, you get a very minty, I think Kenny had this one as well, facsimile of Hulk 181. Of course, the original is staying in the Medicaid, I'm afraid. And like Gino, I'm also going to throw in the Suicide Squad trade paperback. Pretty good read, I thought myself. And then a pick from Kenny from way back, which I really enjoyed. Marvel 1602, another trade paperback, very thick. It's got a little bit of a corner thing here, but a good read, Jason. And that, my friend, is the package that can be yours today if you pick door number 3.
Wow. Tough choices so far. And we're only going to make it tougher with door number 4, Mr. Miracle.
All right. If you pick me, Jay, you'll get the Aliens versus Predator, the entire 4. Oh, wait. You actually will get the entire thing because I'm going to throw in issue 0, which makes it 8.
Nice.
And as you know, these might be undervalued because Marvel just picked up the Aliens and Predators line, right? You will also get an original What If #1 from 1974. Lower grade, but it's still the original issue. I'm going to throw in Shadow of the Bat for all you DC fans. We did this one, Shadow of the Bat #1. Great book all on its own. You will also get Captain America, issue number 350. What a great and iconic issue that one is. And last but not least, you'll get a copy of Astonishing X-Men #1, which was an Unruly Simeon pick, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what you get to pick me, Jay.
Oh.
Plus, I promise I'll throw in some kind of surprise.
Oh, trying to prime the pump.
Predator versus Aliens vs Predator -2. Is that one you're gonna put in? Yeah.
Man, we've reviewed what that just reminds me is we've reviewed so many books on this show.
A lot of books. It's been over a year now.
So I'm in the unusual position of kind of being not having to determine what the value is on the prize packs, but which one appeals to me the most. So I'm in a situation where I've won the Price is Right, and now I get to choose between the 2 prize packs or 4 prize packs. So part of my decision is playing into, okay, I've got some of these things, and then there are a few things that really do appeal to me, and I'm having a hard time choosing between 84 and Genome.
No pressure. You choose now.
I'm going to go with Comic Head 84.
Hey now.
Oh,
Congratulations.
congratulations, Kenny, man.
The Neil Adams books in there, even though they're the preprints, I need them. You gotta have them.
That's a fun book. Yeah.
Do you have Judge Dredd?
I do. I've used that on Comigories, but I couldn't beat DS in that category. I think I pulled it out for Behind Bars, that's where I failed on Comigories that night.
Awesome. I'll be glad and thrilled to send those to you. Congratulations. Thanks again for entering. You're the man.
I feel bad having to choose only one.
I know. We put you in such a pickle, right?
I like Jackson's comment there.
Well, good. You know what?
This is Graders Note, man. We're full of disappointment.
We're full of something, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's our way of giving you a little taste of us having to choose between all your contest entries. Mm-hmm. We was like Sophie's Choice for us too. Like, oh, what do we do? So awesome! Congratulations! And before we went to the halftime special break, we were about to dive into the artwork in this book, and I was just, I was just buttering your toast about your artistic skills, and I'd love to hear your take on the interior art of this book, brother.
Okay, so I mean, the thing that was the most memorable to me about the book was the art. Story too. I'm not going to discount the story that much. I think we can credit Alan Moore with an exponential improvement by Travis Sherry, because I've seen Alan Moore scripts for like The Killing Joke, and I've seen how detailed they are. And if you look at Travis's work before this to this issue, it's night and day as far as what is included in the panels, the amount of detail in the backgrounds, the content. I mean, Gino mentioned it before, the fact that this first couple pages is pure storytelling. I mean, there's dialogue in there, but the dialogue, as in most great comics, the dialogue doesn't need to match what we see in the art, in the panels. So, but looking back, as I'm looking at it through the rose-colored nostalgia glasses, I realize it's not nearly as good as what Travis would do later, but there we go. I mean, pages like this, where we've got, he's using negative space in just an awesome way. I mean, he's putting more design into the panel layouts, the content. The fact that he can let panels like these over here really breathe and give, the awesome colorist Joe Chiodo room to imbue it with something special when it comes to the colors. I have to mention the colors when I talk about this issue because they are just exemplary. Joe Chiodo was Wildstorm he was the A colorist at the time, and he did most of Jim Lee's work along with some others, and was an accomplished painter in his own right. But I look at spreads like this, and to me, they're just masterful. Even though he would improve, technically, and go on to bigger and better things. But this just, for me, just even for the simplicity of it, is pretty great. The knocks I'll give them are shortcuts like this, where he reuses the condition red image from the cover as a unnecessary cheat. And then the fact that since we have characters that we don't know in costume, and the fact that he's not as developed an artist yet, that this Jackie O or Jackie Kennedy knockoff is supposed to be Savant in costume, it's a little bit confusing for an initial read. So those are the knocks I would give it. So I really like it, but it's not quite masterful. I'm going to give it a 4.0 for the interior art.
4.0.
1.0. Very respectable grade.
Yep, that's getting into the rare air for graders' notes.
Yeah, it would be. It really would be.
Mr. Roger, what do you think, man?
Can somebody put up a copy for me?
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to put JHood on that duty. So,
all right.
Let's give me 1 sec to do this. Oh.
Okay. So, the way I look at art and story, that they're very synergistic and they have to complement each other, and this does a pretty good job of that. There are some small issues I have with it, and that is that, like, I think JHood, you were talking that he kind of is mimicking Jim Lee to a certain degree. Everybody, and this is the thing I had with Image, that sometimes they would either be very exaggerating, or they're very or they would undercut things. Like, everybody's nose here looks like they had a nose job last week. It's all very perfectly, triangular, and they're very small. Like, does anybody breathe through their nose or all through their mouth in this comic? There should be more variety there. It just seems, that it's too similar in the nasal areas. You did show that one face. I do like the line work on, I think that's Mr. Majestic as George Washington there. Yep, on the left there. There's good line work there. There's good emotive art there. I think that was well done. Yeah, Onassis looks kind of plain. But again, he does use a technique. If you go to the end of that, of where they transition from that date to the previous date, notice that the panels are the same, except the costumes change. So that you can tell that it's the same characters, it's Savant and Mr. Majestic, and then they appear underneath as in costume. So he uses that technique so that you know who the characters are even out of costume, right? And I thought he did a really good job of transitioning the story, because how flashbacks and flash forwards, it can become very confusing, right? And at first, I thought it was very confusing. There's Honest Abe, okay, but then you see over here where they're by that screen, and how he uses the like you said, the negative space. That is a really good, well done. You see the team there; they're kind of talking, strategizing. Everybody has a little bit of dialogue, or a little bit of like a centerpiece there. Even though there's some in the back there, he's noticeable. Again, as a storyteller, I think he's improving. I think at this point, again, to me, it's a little bit too much mimicking of Lee. The hair, sometimes the hair is blowing in a certain direction where there's no wind, it's indoors. So that kind of inconsistency. And then there's one thing where he really messed up, right? If you go to the part where Tao shoots the heroine, okay? Go to that page, and this is actually just an oversight. Okay, notice that the gentleman has the gun up there in his left hand, right? He has it in his right there, but in the previous issue down here, the previous page, he has it in his left hand. Okay, you see there, and then all of a sudden over here, he has it on his right hand, so Tao can grab it and shoot the heroine. Okay, so again, it's a misstep. It's somebody missed it. Okay, there's an editing issue there that should have been done. And then when he shoots the heroine, it kind of floats to the left, but it doesn't really affect Ladytron, but yet it does affect her. He probably should have had a little more of a spread, or at least some kind of mist or something to show that it did affect her nasal passages at least. So again, he's learning, I think, at this point how to be story oriented in his art. But his anatomy is well done. His storytelling poses and action are actually very well done, I thought. The story flows well in the art. Look at that nice starscape at the end. He's got talent. You can see he's got talent and that he is emerging, right? But as it is now, it was a little bit, a little bit distracting with those kind of errors, those factual errors. And again, some of his little nuances on the face and the nose are just a little bit too similar. It should have a little more variety there. So, but again, as a storytelling artist, very well done. But I couldn't give this more than a 3.
Yeah, to your point, Roger, I remembered this scene where she gets the heroin, blowing up essentially at arm's length. I remembered it being like right in her face, like she took a big cloud right in the kisser.
Uh-huh.
I was surprised that I had misremembered it that badly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some factual issues with his art, but I mean, as far as his technique and line work and the way that he conveys the story, it was well done.
That's right. A fine-tooth comb is always brought to Grader's notes, ladies and gentlemen.
Mustache comb, indeed.
Let's see. Am I next? I think I'm next.
You're up, brother.
Oh, let me tell you something. I got to give kudos to my man JHood, because JHood is the one who really made me aware of the awesomeness that is Travis Charest and an AOK package that he sent me a while back, and it featured the comic which I'm assuming is after this, which to this day I think is one of the best illustrated comics I've seen. WILDC.A.T.S crossover with X-Men. Amazing. You see this guy just put on a comic art clinic in that book. And I do acknowledge that this isn't quite up on that par, but it's still top shelf stuff to me. And one thing that I get that he has that kind of image, club of Jim Lee and Liefeld inspired art, you could say. More Rob Liefeld than Jim Lee, in my opinion. I think he looks like a really, like, if a Liefeld that went to art school and really honed his craft would look like this. But I will say that I think he has a style all his own. When I see this guy's work, I'm like, that's Travis Charest. And I can't quite put my finger on what it is. There's a certain way that he draws the hands. There's a certain way that he draws women that I love, like the body type, the detail that he puts in the tech kind of stuff. He puts way more effort into making the tech look really kind of believable than a lot of the image guys in the 90s. And, one thing that artists of all kinds, musicians, comedians, artists, comic artists strive for is getting their own style. It's something that they have to hone. And not everyone does it. So a lot of people end up never really getting that distinctive of a style. They tend to look like a copy or whatever. I think he's accomplished it. He has a great style. I think it's unique to him. He does cool stuff, like when they did the flashback to the cyber chick, that little old school B-roll footage, outline on the panel, making it black and white. That's great. I don't like too many panel shenanigans. I like a pretty straightforward book. I like the 8-panel grid, and I like to mainly stay to that. But every now and then, a page like this is the best page in the book for me. It's a cool change of pace, and doing the cybernetic stuff around that middle panel is really cool. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. This page is fantastic. He draws, Like the vehicle looks great. Mechanical stuff he does great. Women he does great. So I was very pleased with the art. Every page. I didn't really leave with big qualms on it. I like the faces. I just like the design overall. I dug it big time. And I gave it a 4 as well.
Nice.
Nice.
Love it.
Love it.
Mr. Gino, the floor is yours.
As it were. All right. So the art. Yeah, I'm not going to be quite as kind to this book as you guys were, I don't think. This probably was the strongest part of the book for me. This artist doesn't feel like he can figure out what genre he wants to draw for, because it goes back and forth between like noir and a little more, standard issue. He's got Liefeld faces like all over the place. Like this dude, was he Cro-Magnon man? He's got the big beetled brow, absolutely no nose, no slope at all. He can't draw the guys' faces at all in this book, I don't think. He draws the women very well. Like their faces look fine. They have angles, proportions. I mean, I think Abe, sorry, I'm doing this upside down. Abe looks ridiculous here, but she looks pretty good. She even got the Jackie O pillbox hat on. Nice little nod there. That was a Halston design, by the way. Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's another thing that just screamed Liefeld was this panel right here with those ridiculous extra squibbles and quib. It's like he talked to McFarlane and Liefeld and it's like, I need some more advice, guys, on how to make my art more noticeable. So let's like put some more tick marks in there. So, but there's some cool ones too. My favorite panel of the book is a really simple one, and it's kind of the noir style. I really like this one where he's shooting here and doing the other simultaneous action. I just think that one works. It's real minimalist background, which is a lot of this book too, by the way. I just think that works all right. But for the most part, it's just okay. Like, there's way too many guys like this. And he looks just like the zombie dudes. And the zombie looks just like the good guy faces. So it's like, you can't really tell them apart if it's outside their costumes. Yeah, I don't know. My favorite vehicle picture is this one, actually, though, because I like this little thing he does with the tread down there, if it ever focused. I think that looks pretty nifty. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of all over the place. Some parts are really good. And like I said earlier, I really, really, really dig this first portion because it kind of throws you when they're doing the narration back and forth and looking at the bloody steps and all that. So that part was pretty cool. But I gave it a 2.5. I mean, it's just some parts were pretty good and some parts I didn't like at all. Like the faces really just kind of really bugged me. So yeah, I give it a 2.5. It's serviceable, just not my favorite.
Okay, you heard it here.
I knew that was coming.
This will not stand.
Miracle.
Another serviceable. All right. Interior art. Mr. Charest. Right? He's Canadian, this guy. So pretty sure it's pronounced Charest. Anyways, Travis Charest, like I said, he's Canadian. He's actually from Edmonton, which is just up that way from where I live. I agree that he's very much, at this point, he's just breaking into comics. He's trying to do a bunch of Jim Lee designed characters or put new characters that have to fit in with Jim Lee designed stuff. He started out inking for Jim Lee, at Image, so makes sense that he kind of has this Jim Lee quality to his stuff. But to me, I think he's more like if Rob Liefeld was trying to draw like Jim Lee, but could actually draw well, right? That's Travis Charest is quite a good illustrator. Like he had, he's done quite a bit of comics. I guess it takes him quite a while to do his artwork properly. So now he's more focusing on covers, so he could get, that big details going out there and stuff like that. But I remember him doing Star Wars comics that I liked. He could, like, if he had really pushed his talent, I think he could have been one of those guys that, like, were those beginning defining the 90s comics kind of guys. But he kind of sort of dawdled around. He didn't really hit on any big title that they were given to him. I mean, he was just a young kid when he was breaking into comics, right? So it's tough for an outfit like DC Comics to be like, yeah, you get to draw Batman, right? Like right off the hop, like that kind of thing. But some really great interior arts, I thought. Like the splash page, man. That is one of the better splash pages we had on Creators Notes, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the coloring of that, the way that cuts through all those panels. Man, you know, there was an old comic magazine, I think it was called Savage Stories. You ever remember that one? Anyways, there was a very similar splash page to this. This kind of harking me back to that Savage Stories. The Savage Stories was from the early 80s. Really good anatomy. I really like, you know, some of this cool stuff, the way that Cybertron girl is looking like that, like with her face cut open like that is cool. Few of the things are not, you know, I could have done without all the weird. Nobody can stand upright or in a weird thing. Everybody's got to have some weird disco pose to them, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay. It's one of those things that always bugs me, either with like movies or animation as well. That you always have to have the characters moving and doing something, and it's like, stop. People really don't like do that all the time, right? You don't have to be in these weird, funky poses every time. Anyway. Travis Charest, I still think it's great. Going to support the Canadian boy. I think he did a fine job here for a 27-year-old breaking into the comics industry. He was holding his own out there with guys like Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee, in my opinion. And this issue holds up too. So I gave it a 4.
4.
Wow.
I like that.
So we got a bit of a divide here tonight.
Yeah.
3 4s on interior art.
4, yeah.
Man, that splash page got me. Right?
Something no one else mentioned,
Yeah,
that was a pretty good one. No one else mentioned it, but I like all the articulation, all like the posing looked natural. Like there was no really odd disjointing of things. I thought that was great.
They weren't in odd poses, but they were always in a pose.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like people don't walk down the street and stop like all the time. Right? Like you got to have people just standing around talking, but not striking a pose while they do it. Right?
I know, like that Conan book we reviewed, you know, it had a couple panels of guys sitting in chairs and leaning against walls, still talking normally. You know,
Yeah.
You know, none of you mentioned it. I ran out of time, but that scene where, you know, there's just talking bubbles, and you're seeing blood splattered in that green hued hallways up to the pool. And then you see the pool, and there's a guy bleeding with his arm.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that something happened bad there. I thought that was brilliant type.
Yeah, this was great. Yeah.
That we put there. Yeah.
And another thing you got to give the guy, like he did Tao, and man, artists gotta hate this guy. I mean, how do you draw a guy's superpower his superpower is being smart? It's like, how do you draw that, right? Like,
he'd be like the leader and make his head, like his brain, that big. Yeah.
Well, you have to, but like you're gonna have all these other guys jumping around, shooting powers and firing guns and everything, and then he's gonna be standing in the middle, going, right? Like it's got to drive an artist crazy when they have a character like that.
Yeah.
If Travis designed his costume, though, I got to deduct the point for that.
Yeah.
And I really liked, as far as like poses, there's something I really liked about this panel of Majestic holding the cyber lady. It's just, I don't know, just something about the posing that he does that just looks really cool. It looks really natural, you know?
Yeah. We need some 5th or 6th graders notes today.
Indeed. The 6th grader in the chat. We've showed you a bunch of art on the inside of this bad boy. Toss your hat in the ring. Are you in the majority of this panel in that 4 range, or the hater of the group this week, the Sour Patch Kid of the crew? Gino gave it a serviceable. Sir,
oh, Chad agrees too.
That's still not a bad grade. It's average.
It's just average.
Yeah. It's not like, you know, somebody from Canada has given us some zeros down there.
He's thrown some 0.5s around. I don't think I've ever given one that low before.
There has been some 0 books.
I wish Richard
I tried to give them away.
Had been able to stick around to tell us a little bit about Travis.
Yeah.
The stories that I've heard, I mean, like Mr. Miracle said, he kind of came in, showed a lot of promise, and kind of almost vanished. I mean, he's trickled in some covers here and there. The hearsay that I've heard is that, he was a perfectionist. He would stop. He would tear up a page and redraw it from scratch. I saw a panel with him and Adam Hughes on, and Adam Hughes described his drawing technique as that of like the old-fashioned printers the little dot matrix printers that would start in one spot and finish at the end. That he would start on one corner of the page and draw his way through the other corner. And I've heard Jack Kirby described like that as well.
You'll never make deadlines like that.
Yeah. And
Kirby can make a deadline.
part of the reason that I think we don't see more from him, or didn't see more from him, is that I've just heard this from people that have talked to him, is that his wife her family is part of a winery or something like that, so they're independently wealthy. So he was never doing it for the money. He didn't have to make a living at it. So
nice.
That could be part of it.
Hey, Man Cave, how you doing, Barm?
I gotta do his contest entry. That reminds me.
What's up, Man Cave?
Yeah, Travis was one of the artists I put in my Man Cave contest entry. So.
Yeah. If you guys,
I did his. That's right. I forgot.
You did do his, yeah.
If you haven't checked out that Wildcats X-Men crossover by Charist, it is really something else, man. What a book. What an illustrated book that is. Yeah,
if we were grading that book, because JHood showed it on his contest entry, I would have given that a 4 easy, maybe even higher, because man, the shading and the shadowing he has there is just so good.
And now that I think about it, Richard Friend probably inked that for him.
Oh, wow.
So he was probably partly due some credit for that.
And I feel like in that book, he got away a little bit from because you guys make a valid point about that Michael Jackson nose job that I think is more synonymous with Liefeld than Jim Lee, but Jim Lee did it too. But like that freaking nose job, man, those image nose jobs.
Yeah, everybody has rhinoplasty in that comic.
Yeah,
you know.
Right,
it's distracting to me, but again, he was so good and conveying the story that it overrode that little distraction.
All right, I got the abacus out, Raj.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I was daydreaming here a little bit. Okay, here we go. Steve 2.5, Biggie 3.5, Bill with a 2.5, Dave with a 4, Russ 3.5, Scott 4. Hey, Jason, how you doing? Here's the icons, buddy. How you doing? 4. House with a 3.5. Hey, Werewolf, how you doing, Darren? 3. And that is it.
All right.
That is all.
All right. So I guess that's going to get us to a 3.5 from the chat.
In the middle there, pretty much, you know.
Yeah, Russ officially has a new nickname. Man Cave knows what's up.
Oh man, it's amazing how things like that will stick, right? You know, I mean, it was so good and so funny. I mean, it's just hilarious that it sticks. Abacus, yeah, nice one.
It's a good thing you're not in the military because nicknames stick forever. So.
What was your genome?
Huh? I was Wiley.
Wiley. Yeah. Well, I can see that.
I could find anything. So I was a scrounge.
Oh, you're the scrounger. So you're who was that guy on the Great Escape? The guy who did who was in the Western also. Don't worry about it. I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, next up is the more ethereal type of category, the concept grade. So this is more about the, what's the overall premise of this book? Is it an impressive idea? Because sometimes you have books with, there's a bold concept, there's a bold goal to the book, and whether they execute it or not is another question. But this book had to, we'll let you guys elaborate on the concept grade for Wildcats number 21. I think we would go right round, baby, back to Gino, if I'm not mistaken. And
I don't think I've gone first yet, but that's okay if you want to go Gino.
no, Gino, you went first. Oh yeah, I haven't even gone first yet.
You haven't even gone first.
So we haven't even gone through.
Well, one person won't.
Oh,
so.
You know what's throwing me off? This 5-panel madness. Roger, I would love if you could start the conversation about this concept, man.
And obey the turkey, everyone.
Okay, all right, we'll do. Okay, concept. Again, this is more ethereal. I mean, what is behind the creation of this particular comic? This is a very tough one to grade conceptually because it's sort of a reboot of sorts, but not really. You're getting a new writer, but the artist is sort of carries over to some degree. But a lot of new characters, a lot of Alan Moore creations here. I see that here. And again, he is a name. He is a lore to readers. And like I said, I'm not a big Image fan. I thought they were just big, boisterous. It's like somebody who talks a big game but doesn't deliver, to a great degree. But this one, I got a slightly different vibe from this one. I don't think this is a cash grab necessarily. I think that, again, like I think we talked about it, Jim Lee is sort of going into the editorial role and they saw opportunity to get a big name. I don't know if Moore is, again, because of what he did with Watchmen, and I think, the whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow is a brilliant story, which is so out of the Moore mold. It doesn't have those overtones that I see from him almost in everything else, including Swamp Thing and so forth, and certainly in Watchmen. So I find it very hard to grade this as a conceptually. It's a new team. I think I think they're starting a new direction. That last panel with some of the old members looking at that starscape leads me to believe that there is going to be at some point some interaction or they're going to be included in here at some point. So maybe it's not going that far afield. Maybe they're not rebooting, but they're sort of trying a new direction is the vibe that I'm getting here. So again, since I don't have all the information and I don't have a clear picture of what is going on here, it's not a cash grab, so I can't ticket for that. It's not a new concept per se that I can tell. I mean, it's the team is just being assembled, so it's very hard to discern the long range concept here. I don't find it like bad or good, so I'm just going to hedge here and just say it's average, 2.5.
0.5. All right, well done. I think that brings it to me on this concept. I didn't have to think too hard on this one. I got to be honest. I feel like the concept is, and I don't know all the backstory, but I feel like it's the first team started to run out of steam by 20 issues. They said, let's reboot a team so we can keep this numbering going. I feel like there's no real rhyme or reason to the team very much. It was like very hodgepodge type of assembly of characters, I think. I don't think they introduced any characters that really went on to be of much note. So they didn't really accomplish anything there. I think they did try to just grab a big name to maybe put some life back into this run. Story was a heist story. I found the concept to be flimsy and pretty surface level. Let's try to reboot a team. Very ordinary assembly of that team, too. I was not kind to the concept on this book. I gave this thing a 1.5 for concept. 1.5. No gobble needed, Gino. That's all.
You still have half your time to go yet. In fact, if you want to say nice things for the next minute, you're free to go. Yeah.
Pass my
quick cut to the bone there.
I'm going to pass my time on to. I'm starting to forget the order, as you can see.
Just wing it, man.
Gino, I think it's you.
All right, it's me. Yeah, nothing really to talk about here. You guys already nailed it. This is just basically, I don't know anything about Image or the Wildcats. So I'm guessing the team was floundering and the book was floundering. So they found an excuse to put a big name on it. I think that was the only thing they were doing here. You know, he let him spread his wings. He promised Alan Moore, it's like, oh, look, okay, write whatever you want. Yes, we'll let you have at least one junkie hero in there, and you can do whatever noir stuff. But this is, in the end of the day, it's just a number one. It's a fetch quest. They did at least try to give. A lot of times these fetch quest stories don't really have a story other than the fetch itself. In this one, at least they built like the heist into the whole quest thing. So it was okay, but this is nothing new here. This is the same old. I gave it a 2. Basically just, you know, kind of hoping that a big artist, you know, and a very competent interior artist can help, you know, probably revitalize what was probably a floundering series. So that's only thing I know about it, and that's what I can discern from it. So just gonna give it a 2. They didn't do anything new here at all, but they did at least give a damn enough to, like I said, put good artists on it on both ends. So just gonna give it a 2. There's nothing new here.
Nothing to see here, says Gino.
Nothing to see here.
On to Mr. Miracle.
Moving along. So, concept of this book, again, we've seen it. It tropes on. Let's put together a alternate group of superheroes that are bad, and nobody's ever done that. Suicide Squad or anything like that before, right? So he's stealing the concept. He presents it in a very unique way with the heist book, right? The characters are going about collecting their team members a little more different than what we usually see, where they just, you know, somebody just comes up and says, hey, you're a good guy, come and be good with us. Sure, right? So the concept of that is good, but the concept overall has pretty much been played the heck out by 1995. That being the case, I gave it a 2 for the concept, right? I was not too happy. I didn't particularly like the characters that were involved here. A couple of them, I did like the blonde-haired girl. I thought she was pretty good. Other than that, I could have, you know, taken or leaving any of them. So, anyways, concept-wise, of all these alternate heroes, forming a team is not too new of a thing. So, 2.
All right. Well, Mr. Hood, looks like this is the category that's getting the biggest pummeling from the Graders Notes panel. What say you, man?
So let's look at it on surface level. It's, yeah, we need to try something new. Let's find the biggest name author, writer we can. Let's throw out characters no one's ever heard of before, no one cares about. Let's throw in as many tropes as we can. Let's have this weird gimmick with people in, you know, historic presidential outfits, and let's do it as masterfully as possible. And that's kind of where we ended up. So, yeah, let's the whole point of the like I said earlier, the MacGuffin of the story is to enlist this seedy character, Ladytron, that we know nothing about. Why is she worth the pursuit? We don't know, but it's a heck of a read. So I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to give it a 2.5 for the concept.
Thanks.
2.5 for the concept.
We were all succinct on that one.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't even mention this. I was wanting to know if anyone else would, but well, actually, we'll turn it over to chat, and I guess we'll talk about it. But
yeah, chat. What say you on the concept of Wildcats reboot? Let your chat vote. You heard?
But yeah, it's like you know, we mentioned earlier that it's kind of nice. This book does not steer towards first issue-itis in a way, but in the same time, I don't know what any of these characters do. You know, I don't know what their power set is, other than this maybe smart, suggestive guy. What do they do? So I don't want to hear them explain their powers, but I want to actually see something happen so I know what we're getting into. Or are these all just human characters, you know, other than Cybergirl?
Yeah, that was kind of my problem too. It's like I hadn't read a lot of Wildcats, right? Even after I picked up the first couple issues, but that was about it. So I hadn't really read it. So I didn't know a lot about these characters in general.
Yeah, I mean, they drop clues like with the Condition Red being kind of the weaker younger brother of Grifter. You know, Grifter was probably Wildstorm's most recognizable character by that point.
Yeah, the guy with the big face cloth mask thing, right?
Savant is the sister of one of the other Wildcats.
Zealot, I think.
I think Zealot was her sister's name. So there was connective tissue to what had come before.
I guess.
But yeah, like I said earlier, throwing this out to a new reader, maybe not the best choice for, hey, try this as a single issue read.
Yeah, because like they kept mentioning that Savant character, and I had no idea who they were talking about.
Yeah, so Savant is the blonde girl, and Zealot is her sister.
Oh,
She's the one on the diving board.
okay, now I got it. Okay, right.
She's kind of like it seems to me like she's like the de facto leader here.
Yep.
And again, that's why I said, hey, this is like Alan Moore characters, because he's sort of introducing them, and he's like he did with the Charlton characters. He remolded them and deconstructed them, and I see sort of a little bit of that. I mean, that's a Moore trope in a sense. He takes a character and he digs deep and he says, okay, what really makes them tick? And usually it's something that is, not positive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of probably infighting, and there's going to be a lot of hidden agendas here. That's a Moore concept through and through, which I happen to like. So that's why I gave it a 2.5, even though it was a little confusing, a little muddled. I think that he's going to get there eventually. So the potential is definitely there.
I thought it was kind of amusing the fact that they, like Mr. Miracle said earlier, that Savant even says, yeah, we're building this team, and it's going to have these three kind of characters and these two kind of characters and this.
And the giant guy and
yeah. He's like, our team's going to have all these things eventually, and it's the fact that they're breaking the fourth wall almost, and
right. But they come real close to breaking that fourth wall several times. Even here in the last panel, when she's like, no, we're not the old Wildcats. We're not a new Wildcats. We are the Wildcats, right?
Right.
Like it's just, like that with my sister and her buddies.
Yeah.
And then they show some of the old Wildcats on that last panel, sort of juxtapose that. Sort of saying, oh, really?
Yeah.
Again, Moore loves to throw those twists and start messing with your mind. He loves to do that.
I thought the zombie henchmen were kind of cool. I wanted to see what they were all about, but I don't know if they get fleshed out later on. But
Zombots.
The Zombots were kind of cool. Kind of a cool idea.
Yeah. I like the odor that they were protruding, because obviously they're rotting, so they have a short shelf life.
Yeah, short shelf life for henchmen,
Right.
but cheap.
All right, what's the score?
All right, you ready, Kenny?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. We got a 3 from my buddy Jason, a 1 from Scott. Patrick. Oh, hey Patrick. 3 from Russ. 2.5 from Vic. 3 from Man Cave. 2 from Steve Whiting, and a 1 from Patrick Wall.
Ooh.
Got some strong opinions on the concept here.
That would give it a. Oh, actually, it just made it into 2.5.
Really?
2.5. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
There you go.
Wow. Nice.
So let's see who's got the most. Let's see.
Very nice. That was a little higher than I expected, actually, from the chat.
Yeah. Now's when Genome reveals who was most in sync with the chat.
Looks like it was kind of a weird tie here. All right, so
Weird tie.
it's kind of weird. Like everyone's got like 1. The scores are all over the place, man. It's so strange. Let's see. Miracle has a 3, and so does the chat for the cover. Interior art, chat rated 3.5. No one had that number. The story, 2.5 for the chat, and I had 2.5 in that one, and so did Kenny. And then concept, 2.5 from the chat, and Roger and JHood had 2.5 on that. So I don't think anyone actually won tonight.
Yeah.
Well, what about our overall? Can we do that one and sort of break the tie?
See see where we land.
Yeah, let's see. We got to pick a winner here. We're not commies. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and do the mean here of the chat.
There you go.
That's gonna be 2.875. So it's actually a 3 for the chat for the overall.
3 for the overall. Not bad.
Okay.
Not bad.
Nice.
Well, let's do our. We usually do. We try to do the overall in somewhat lightning round mode. We're gonna stay in this 5-panel view and go around the table and drop our overall grades. At this point, this late in the show, I've completely forgot the order of anything, so I'm just going to start it off. Overall grade, to remind you, the cover was a 2.5. The story was a 2.5. The interior art for me was the real highlight of this book. Very impressive stuff. I liked it. I really liked. I've been saying Travis Charest, but what do I know? I don't even say my I's, so what do I know about pronunciation? And the concept was, yeah, really, especially for Alan Moore, I didn't feel like this had a very strong concept behind it. I think this maybe was payday type situation for him. 1.5 there. So, let me just go by the numbers. Let's see what that averages out. So it's 2.5 for the cover, 2.5 for that, 4. Sorry, this is not very lightning round, I think, but 10.5, 10.4. Well, according to the numbers, man, 2.5 and that's about right. That evens it out. 2.5 for this book. But it was an enjoyable read, that's for sure. What do you think, Roger, for an overall?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, the only thing is that I'm going to bump it up because the 2 weak links to me were the cover and the concept, and I don't give those as much weight. To me, the cover is always the least important part of the comic, right? Once it's just to get you to buy it, essentially. It's eye candy, right? It generally has very little to do with the story and so forth. I thought the story was solid with the proviso that there is a lot to be yet to be revealed, but I could see the potential of the storyline that's evolving here, and the art, the same thing. I see that as a good storyteller, very appropriate for this type of comic. Charest is. I had some problems with the facial structures, some factual issues as far as how the art was actually laid out. But honestly, and the concept, was average, muddled, because again, we just don't know a lot about what's going to be going on. It's a new direction. More is coming in. I was going to give it a 2.5, but I just thought the story and the art really were just, if we take a holistic approach, it was just a little tick above. So it would be more like 3.5, 6 for me, 3.6. It didn't reach 3, the next level, but it was so close that carried it over. So again, solid story, solid art will get you at least, for me, a 3 every time. So that's what I get, a 3.
Well said. Well said. We'll continue on to Mr. JHood.
All right. So looking back, so when I tossed this out, you guys said, okay, what book should we do? I tossed this out, and it was almost I almost didn't have to think about it. I was like, okay, these guys, they do a good job of covering the full spectrum of comics, but everybody talks about the 90s, and I don't see them doing 90s books very often. So this is the one I remember. And I think looking back now, I liked it because this stood out amongst everything else that was happening at the time. The art, the story structure, the coloring was heads and shoulders above Wildcats 20, even though Travis Charest did the art in that as well. But and I'm not I'm no mathematician, so I'm not going to take my scores and average them out. I liked the book enough that I wanted to put it out there to have everyone take a look at it. It's not as good as I remember. I give it a 3.5.
They never are, Jay. They never are. Really.
They never are. They rarely are. I wouldn't say never.
Right. I mean,
They rarely are.
We reviewed Daredevil 181 on one of our shows we do like this, and that was better than I remembered it.
Okay.
By the way, that's actually added up to your mean score too, so it worked.
Hey, what do you think, Miracle?
Overall, for this book, like I said, I was back and forth a lot on stuff. Like I like Jim Lee's stuff, but I don't think this was the greatest Jim Lee cover. I like Alan Moore's stories, but he got real tropey, and he got real Alan Moore tropey in this thing, right? It wasn't his best story, but the dialogue was good, right? And a little bit taken away for it being a heist was good. Interior art, Travis Charest, or Travis Charest, as Kenny would say, he's wicked awesome, right? I really like his art, and I'm not just saying that because he's a fellow Canadian and a fellow Albertan like I am, but I think he's like quite an amazing artist. It's too bad he didn't have a faster drawing style so that he could have like really put himself out there and been a Rob Liefeld or a Jim Lee in his own right. So for the overall of this book, back and forth, and I landed right in the middle, man, and I gave it a 2.5. I liked the story, but there was lots of stuff I really wish would have been changed.
Well said. Gino, serviceable. What did Biggie say? Biggie, you nailed that. Serviceable.
Serviceable, huh? Or
Yeah,
serviceable, yeah.
Sir,
I'm quite the visible chap. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of toe the party line. Actually, my grade is gonna be really reflective of my mean. I gave it a 2.5. Cover didn't blow me away. It was okay. Strike a pose, should be on a music video somewhere or a CD cover. Whatever. That didn't do much for me. The story was good. This whole book is a double negative, or one positive and one negative for me. There's always something just holds it back. Like Dave said, I love the dialogue. The dialogue seems so natural in this book, and I like the back and forth and the kind of antagonistic nature between the two main leaders, I guess, of the group. But then, I didn't really care for the whole subplot, and I didn't learn anything about any of the characters, so I'm really not invested in them at all. I don't really care about reading the next episode or issue, to be honest with you. And that's kind of a real bad detriment for a comic book. The interior art, I mostly liked it, even though I think the styles jumped around wildly in there. A little too much more for my taste. But what I did see in there, I liked. And, I was a little bit hard. I only gave it a 2.5 on the interior art. But honestly, this is better than most of the stable of Marvel, even before the big Exodus had. So I'm not just giving him a hard time. I just wish I didn't like the way he drew the men's faces at all, and I didn't like how the art style just kind of kept jumping around. And the concept, there's no concept here. This is a fetch quest. This is a #1 issue when they didn't feel like rebooting the series, which I can really like that. It is odd to do it at issue 21, but nowadays, issue 4 hits. Okay, well, we dropped below 10,000, reboot the series, and we'll start with the #1. That's predatory and that's terrible. So I kind of like how they maintained the issue count here. That was kind of cool. So 2.5, man, it's a game of extremes, and I like some of it a lot and I dislike some of it quite a bit. So I just let it meet in the middle. It was a fun read. Definitely worthy of time. So 2.5.
well,
And it has zombie henchmen. So
The zombie henchmen were good.
I thought that was cool.
3 for you because the big horror guy that you are.
another greatest notes in the books. I'm glad you picked this book.
Yeah, totally outside the
Interesting.
norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last even close contemporary that was the X-Men #1, wasn't it? The Joss Whedon one.
Dude, we didn't even pick
Oh well, no,
No, that was.
or maybe
Well, before this.
1601. When did 1601 come out? That might have been closer.
Oh yeah, because that was in the
Or
2000s.
1601.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Astonishing was in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Um,
So, who's got the next pick? Did we discuss that?
we totally did
Miracle.
not do that.
We did not do that. We forgot.
Whoops, Miracle does. So you got a book in waiting, sir,
No.
and/or movie.
Yeah, we can do a follow up. Just one
Sorry,
thing.
we're gonna have to do a follow up, guys. I'm not prepared for that. I forgot it
Yeah.
was my turn.
Well, we didn't remind you either, so we all messed up.
Yeah, I know. sake, especially that I go double.
We were so excited to have JHood here with us.
That's
It's true. How was your experience, Jay? Did you enjoy the format?
Yeah, it was fun. Like I said, I do a similar show. We don't get quite in depth as far as digging into the book and grading it on all of its parts. It's when we do issue a hand, it's a combination of review the book and get to know the person that's bringing it to the table. It's kind of equal parts of that for us. So I know you guys. I mean, we've gone for almost. Well, we just hit 2 hours. You guys deliver real, well thought out, very well articulated points on all the work you cover. You cover it very fairly. You're not afraid to state your opinion, regardless of who's creating it. That was a little bit. I don't want to say it was intimidating, but I needed to get my head in that space because I'm usually more of a. I'm just going to keep on the positives and not, dwell on the negatives so much. But
that's how I do it.
It's definitely fun to pick a book like this. When I picked it, I had only read it once or twice, like I said, 25 years ago. So it was fun to bring back something that's kind of, it had its hooks in me as far as, I remembered it, thought it was, like I said, better than it was. But to be able to bring it back out and kind of chop it up like this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Don't sweat it, man. I've eviscerated my own books before that I've picked. So,
oh yeah.
So it just happens. Sometimes nostalgia glasses come off, man, when you get old. Like
the only one I feel bad about to this day, that how bad we beat it up, because I think the person who brings it to the table, it isn't always like a complete darling of theirs. They pretty objective too, but that Gino was really excited to bring that Aliens Predator to the table. And we spanked that book so bad.
I literally used to have those thumbtacks, like not through the book itself, but through the sleeve over my bed. Like that's how hyped I was for that series. And I was in high school back then or whatever. It was like I was salivating for that one. Yeah, then I think the highest grade Dave gave it. That one was like a 1. So
crushed your dream there.
Yeah,
I still couldn't get rid of it. I tried to give it away today.
There'll be other opportunities. I think this has worked out so well, and I think we'll be doing this maybe a little more often because it's so cool to have a different perspective. I love these guys, but it's always cool to have somebody like JHood who's an artist and he has a certain point of view, the way that he looks at things. I've always was very impressed in his channel. That the way that he looks at things, it's not on the surface. He looks layers behind it. And that's sort of what we do to a certain degree. But I thought it was very poignant that JHood was the one who eked out the winner because I really wanted to see his perspective on something on Graders Notes, and I got my wish.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, and Hero's Icon, I think, like the backdrop. So there you go.
Yeah, he called you Mr. Green Screen. Oh, no, Jackson did. That is a cool image. See, that 97, it has a, not anatomically correct, but it has a hell of a style to it.
No,
it totally does.
Her pancreas is getting squeezed out of her nostril, but she has a good action pose there.
So Kenny, if you like Travis Charest,
yeah,
look up. This is the first issue of the second Wildcats run. I think he did like 2.5 issues, and stuff in this he did after that X-Men Wildcats book.
Nice.
So this is more full color than what they showed in that, but it's art-wise, it's on par with that.
Nice. I will check that out.
Yep, good pick, man. It was good to do something like in this era. And is this our first image book, too, we've done?
I think so.
I think it is.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And like Roger said, maybe we can do this again from time to time, too, because we're at 2 hours, which is pretty good for us. So,
when you obey the turkey, it all works out.
Yeah, we kept it pretty tight, so awesome. And I'm going to go around and you guys can let the people know maybe what to expect. And I'll just say so we didn't give you what the next book is, your homework yet. Stay tuned to us. I'll post, we'll post it when we come to a conclusion. But your main takeaway is it's going to be on Mr. Miracle's channel in 2 weeks. We share the stage. We share the hosting duties. That's how Graders Notes roll. We're a combine. We are commies when it comes to that, right, Gino?
Very collectivist here.
Very collective.
You're right, comrade. We are.
We are a collective here. We are proletariat.
Yeah, the proletariat lives on here at Creators Notes.
Make sure you subscribe to Miracle and that notification bell and all that good stuff to catch the next episode. And why don't you start with anything coming up we should tune into? I think you dropped a spec video like last week, I think, right?
Yeah, it was last week, so there should be another one coming up here right away. Definitely got one all queued up and ready to go. And I'm going to take Mr. Genome's advice and put together a top 10 sort of list that I've been working on. So that'll be go real soon here. I've got a lot of new subscribers lately. So rather than try and go back through over a year and a half's worth of spec videos, just kind of pick a top 10, maybe a top 20. There's a lot that I should be picking, and put them together so they kind of give you a catch-up video. Right? A lot of them, it's too late, right? A lot of books that I spec'd on a year and a half ago are now not undervalued any longer.
Yeah.
But there's still a few out there. There's gems. I'm like, buy this one. You'll pay off.
You could date stamp them, Dave. Date stamp them. Say, if you would have listened to me at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, do like a highlight reels to kind of show, prove your point.
That's what I'm going to do. I've got a few, a good one. I'll just bring an example is Adam, Legend of the Blue Marble #1. And when I spec'd on that book, it was a $60 book, and sales now are reaching $400, $500, $600 for that book.
Wow.
Right. So I kept telling people, I went looking for my own copy, and I asked 18 different vendors at a comic show. Only one guy had even heard of it. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is undervalued. Yeah.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Gino, I know you've been dropping some Next Generation. I got to dig into your library of Next Generation reviews.
They're quite extensive. I should have had one come up this week. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find a link there because Dave mentioned a compilation, and I was going to link Mr. Miracle's greatest hits.
Oh, yeah.
I made a little while ago.
Yeah.
Greatest hits, yeah.
For those fans out there, McFarland, but it's kind of far down there. I make too many videos.
There
it is.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yeah.
He's definitely not a Canadian Homer if you watch that McFarlane episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So
another reason why
don't have the kids in the room when you watch this, people. But he lets it all hang out, as Queen said. So, all right, what's going on the channel? More of the same. Like Kenny said, I've started redoing my Star Trek Next Generation reviews of every episode, starting in season 1. So I think at episode 13, I had to take a break from it because the sheer poison and disgustingness of season 1 was starting to depress me. So I had to get away from it for a while. But I'm back in the saddle again. I just wrapped up my Nightmare on Elm Street series. I finished up with the 2010 remake, or the review is up on the channel as of yesterday. So I'm going to do a quick series rundown, like which my favorites are, and maybe a top 10 kills or something from the movies. We'll see if I get froggy. But then it's on to my next horror franchise, which I think I have picked out. Announced on that shortly. And just more of the same. Comic book cover of the week. It's up there. And hopefully some more comic content coming up in the future. I need to do another music review. It's been a little while. But it's only so many hours in the week, So, yeah, there we go.
Very nice. Very nice. Mr. Roger, what's cooking over there on MetaRock's channel?
Well, of course, I do the roundup every Thursday, and there's one up today. There's not a whole lot of new contests out this week, but there's a lot ongoing. So I try to encourage people to support these guys that are putting these on for us. If we don't support them, we're not going to see these contests coming down the pike. And Genome did one there. Of course, Man Cave, everybody saw that Golden Age cap, and people are coming out of the woodwork for that one. But
I've been entering contests like crazy lately, just for
different to do. I've seen the horror stuff too. I know you have, but so I got that. I'm on Tuesdays. I do my special videos. I think this Tuesday I'm actually going to show all comics from a certain publisher, very small publisher, which I figured out I had them, and I was just looking through them, and I was like, man, what a footnote in comics history this is, right? And I love that obscure stuff. So I'm going to do that on this Tuesday, and then every Tuesday probably I'll do my top 5 reads, and I'm going to do another character retrospective coming up. I haven't quite figured out who, So yeah, that's the kind of stuff you expect. If it's obscure, if it's weird, if you've never heard about it before, it probably is on my channel.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna save the finale plug for our guest here, and I would just say on this very channel, you know, I got lots of ideas for videos that I need to get around to dropping. So those are in the pipeline, but just know there's a nice gestation period going on up here for some good stuff.
He's percolating.
It's percolating, man.
Just stating.
Yes, indeed. You know, tune in Friday, the Mega Power Hour. It's the kind of, you know, it's just a good time hang on a Friday evening with my partner in crime, Biggie Shaq. And it's sure to be a good time. And, you know, just stay tuned. Just stay tuned. But Mr. JHood, you've been getting in a pretty good groove, you know, with your content. Clobbering time, you know, issue at hand. What's on the docket, man?
So we won't be doing a Clobbering Time this weekend. It's our weekend off, but we'll do it the next Saturday, which if I was smart, I'd have a calendar in front of me. I could tell you what the date is. But we do that show every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And it's meant to be just fun comic book and edutainment, where share a little knowledge, personal history about comics, show some books, show our latest acquisitions and things like that, and just have an hour of a little chit chat and fun. And then I also try and do more meaningful videos in the evenings, and I can do it rarely, but tonight was a special occasion, so I was able to do that. I'm actually looking for a guest to come on to do an issue at hand with me and my regular crew, and we're looking to cover this book. We want to do all 4 issues, Give Me Liberty by Frank Miller and Dave Gibbons.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of in light of recent events, everything's going on. Something came to mind that this might just be a cool comic to pick up and read and kind of examine it in light of everything going on these days, and see, you know, was this a little bit prescient, you know, about, you know, things that have occurred, or is there any comparisons that can be made? Is there anything we can learn from this that we can carry into our lives and things like that? So just looking for somebody that is interested in that work, would like to come on and talk about it. And like I said, we don't dig into the books nearly as deeply as you guys do here on Graders Notes, but and this might be a special occasion where we're doing 4 issues, so we might go longer than our usually planned 1-hour sessions. But we look forward to doing that. I've got some other primetime ideas that I want to break out. One of them is what I'm calling my 15-point guide to eBay buying, where I'll reveal all of my secret tricks and techniques to find the cheapest deals, because, you know, I can't go over my ouchie price, or at least not very often. So, but we'll have fun doing that, and I hope to get that out in the next couple of weeks or so. But that's what we got going on.
Heck yeah, man.
Oh, looking forward to that one. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thank you guys for joining. Panel and chat. It's always such a pleasure to do this show with you guys, man. I really do look forward to it.
Likewise.
Yeah, right back at you, buddy.
From here, live from 84 Studios, you just watched Graders Notes, the special 5-panel edition. Shout out to everyone who is hanging with us in the chat, contributing those grades, and all that good stuff. So, till next time, ladies and gents, have a great night.